Welcome to La Pedriza, Spain, where the legendary pro climber Adam Ondra recently flashed the intense 8B+/C boulder problem El Elegido. As an amateur climber who only climbs for fun in my free time, watching someone like Adam Ondra send an 8B+ in just one go is nothing short of incredible. I've tried my hand at this boulder a handful of times over the years, but only managed to climb the 8A stand start. The difference in skill between a pro climber and an amateur climber like me is clear. But what does it actually take to flash an 8B+ boulder problem? In this video, we're going to dive into Adam Ondra's flash of El Elegido and compare his approach to my own journey with this boulder problem, along with taking a look at one of my old 8B projects located in the very cave where Adam Ondra gave an amazing flash go on another 8B+ in the same day. Stay tuned as we break down what it really takes to climb at this level and compare the journey of a pro climber like Adam Ondra with an amateur climber's perspective. Before we get too far in, I want to give a huge shout out to Adam Ondra and his team. When I got the idea to put together this video, I reached out to them and they were gracious enough to give me permission to use some of his original footage. All of the video we'll see of Adam Ondra climbing today belongs to Adam himself. If you're interested in seeing his original video, I'll link that in the description below. Now, if you aren't already familiar with La Pedriza, you should be. When we think of the Spanish climbing scene, it's often Albarracin or Margalef that come to mind. La Pedriza is often overshadowed by these popular crags, but La Pedriza is actually one of the largest climbing areas in Spain. This granite paradise is home to world-class slab sport climbing, trad, and some of the hardest boulders in the country. The best part is that it's located just a short 45-minute drive from the Madrid city center, making it one of the most accessible climbing areas that I've ever seen. When I first caught wind of Adam Ondra visiting La Pedriza, after seeing a story pop up on a friend's Instagram account, I figured that he had probably just escaped for a day of bouldering after filming some YouTube content climbing the hard slab routes there. But after Adam actually published his video of him bouldering on his own YouTube account, it made total sense that he probably caught a last-minute flight after catching a streak of really bad conditions in Fontainebleau, because La Pedriza is just so insanely accessible from all of the other European capitals. Most of the flights will get you from a European capital to Madrid with under 2 hours. Ondra's trip to La Pedriza starts with a hike up to the El Rodaje sector, where we have a handful of beautiful slab problems, but this sector is mostly known for a steep overhanging cave that is very unique for the rock style that we have in La Pedriza. Inside the Rodaje Cave, there are 9 or 10 different boulder problems if we're counting all of the stand starts, low starts, and combinations. This cave has an excellent orientation that keeps all of the handholds and footholds in the shade almost the entire day. And if you have a really high level of climbing and strength, there are some fantastic options to give flash goes, because you can reach all of the handholds from the ground, you can touch everything, and the falls are safe and flat. One of the coolest parts about bouldering in a cave like this, if you've never tried it before, is that once you learn one of the entrances and one of the exits, you start learning other entrances and other exits, and then you mix and match to create different link-ups and combinations. This provides a really logical progression in your climbing if you're trying to add difficulty to boulder problems. So this cave ends up being a playground for a lot of the strong climbers in Madrid. Before we take a look at Adam Ondra's 8B+ flash attempt, let's have a peek at my old project. This boulder problem is an 8B called Wild Wild West. The boulder starts right off the deck with a physical first move where you try not to dab the floor before getting on an extremely technical toe hook. The crimps that I'm about to grab are very tiny, and you can see just how aggressive the overhang is. This dynamic move was the absolute crux of the problem. I was never able to do it with keeping my feet on the wall. The hold that I'm on now is mediocre at best. I was never able to use it to get chalk from a chalk bag, but it is enough to kind of catch your breath and reset before entering a long sequence on small crimps. Now, this is going to be the second crux of the boulder problem here, as I grab a gas stone and fall into a right-hand crimp before doing one more pretty hard move. Keep that foot tension on. I actually fell here one time. That was a total heartbreaker. Right now, I've got 2 jugs, can shake out a little bit, and this final sequence isn't overly difficult. From here, I would say probably about a 6C or 7A boulder problem at best. But at this point, if you're doing this with extreme cold or you're getting pumped and nervous about the send, you could definitely still drop it. Here, I've got a heel hook on, 2 slopey holds. I just grabbed a jug with my right hand, and I know the boulder problem's done. I am super stoked. As you can see right now, as I do the top out, Lucy's coming over with the camera, and I just couldn't believe it. I actually did this boulder 3 months after popping my A2 pulley. I have a video about that on my channel as well, if that's ever happened to you. To kind of put this in perspective for you guys, if I were to count all of the days that I spent working this boulder problem, including the 8A entrance boulder and then the connection that made it an 8B, I think I'm somewhere in the 10 to 15 session range, maybe even a little bit more. My really good friend Jesus Chuchi Munoz, he has done a handful of 8C boulder problems in his bouldering career. This took him several sessions to do. And then I was actually there the day that Nacho Sanchez did this boulder flash, and we took photos for him after. That was an absolute treat to watch, and it was just an incredible sight to see. And then we have Adam Ondra, who's going to be trying the hardest link up of all of the hardest boulders in the cave. This line is called Charlotte 8B+, that was opened by Beto Rocosolano. So Adam's going to start in the far right-hand side of the cave. Those first 3 moves are actually common with a 7A+, but Adam's going to split off and enter to an 8A+ section. The move that Adam's doing right now isn't physically demanding at all in terms of your crimp strength, but as you can see, his body is becoming incredibly stretched out. After sending Wild Wild West, I tried this boulder a handful of times, and I was only able to stick this barn door move once. Adam's about to work his way into the crux of the other boulder Wild Wild West that you saw me do before. And here is where we see the difference between a pro climber like Adam Ondra and me. He does the move absolutely static. I tried the beta that he did there with the heel hook a handful of times, and there was no way that I was going to get it to happen. The only way that I was able to stick that dynamic move was with the tip of my toe and just chucking as hard as I could, knowing that I was going to cut feet and trying to hold that barn door. This move was a stopper move for me over and over and over again, and there were some days even right up until I sent the boulder where I couldn't do it at all. So at this point, Adam has actually done the hardest part of the boulder. He's about to enter the endurance part of the climb on the small crimps. He's working his feet out here. And as we can see, he just made a tiny little beta mistake with his hands, but he fixes it and settles back in as he goes in for this gas stone move. Now, I think Adam being a taller climber, it was hard for him to get in that drop knee, and off he went. Adam's pretty visibly upset at this point, which is understandable. I think he probably knows that he made a small mistake that cost him the flash to this boulder, but I take my hat off to Adam Ondra. That was an incredible flash go. He gave it his all, and I think he should be pretty happy with that one. I have absolutely no doubt that Adam probably would have done this boulder if he had given it a second attempt, but considering how sharp those crimps are and that tweaky shoulder move, I think Adam made a wise decision deciding to save some strength for a flash attempt on El Elegido. So Adam took a 5-minute car ride to another sector called La Dehesa, made a 20-minute hike up the hill to where we find our boulder problem. This is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, because unlike El Rodaje Cave that has an excellent orientation, this boulder is in the sun pretty much all day from the early morning hours until the last hour or so of the evening. That means you can come here at night and some of those handholds are still baking, making them really hard to hold on to. But that being said, I think from the perspective of a pro climber like Adam Ondra, who has done some of the hardest sport climbing routes and hardest boulder problems in the world, it can't be a more perfect flash candidate for a hard boulder problem. This thing has handholds and footholds that are all reachable from the ground, so you can touch everything, put tick marks if you need to, and figure out all of your beta before pulling on the wall. And secondly, this thing is a traverse problem. While it has some very difficult moves, there aren't a whole lot of single stopper moves in one place. It's very sustained throughout. Just like Charlotte, El Elegido, the 8B+ 8C, was opened by Beto Rocosolano, and this line actually divides into 2 separate sections. We have the low section, which Adam is going to do in his flash send, and an 8A+ stand start called Kata. I was working the stand start of El Elegido back in 2021, and I found that when I was working this problem, there was a very defined crux move. The crux move for me was coming right off the bat, where there's this very long and dynamic move. Me being a shorter climber, this took me several sessions to figure out, and I think in total I probably spent between 4 and 6 days working the 8A stand start of that boulder. In typical me fashion, I really made sure to dial in the final sequence of that boulder to make sure that I reduce the possibility of sticking the crux and falling after doing the hardest moves of that section. I think for me that it was really, really important to find a day of extreme cold to make sure that there was the best friction possible on those slopers. Let's take a look at my send of the stand start 8A version of El Elegido. So the first move of the stand start comes in from one move lower than what Adam will be doing, but we get right away into a technical heel hook and making that really long dynamic crux move I mentioned before. Later we'll see how easily Adam makes this look. Right now I'm trying to keep calm because I was stoked to stick that crux move and I knew that it was possible to send. This move coming up was also really far and dynamic for me being a shorter climber, but the friction was so good on this cold December evening. From here on out, it's about a 7A level of climbing. I know that the boulder is pretty much done at this point, but you're trying to fight against those send nerves and the pump that comes when you're trying hard and it's really cold outside. Luckily, I had things pretty dialed in at this point, so it was just a matter of breathing a little bit, staying calm, and trying to wrap things up. I'm about to get one more move over, and at this point I know that the boulder is finished and I am absolutely stoked, and I was really, really happy with that one. Now, we already know that Adam Ondra is at the top of his game in terms of both his strength and climbing technique, but what I find incredible about this flash send of El Elegido is his ability to mentally work past through two major obstacles that happen right before he's about to give his flash attempt. The first is Adam says that the holds at the end of the problem are a little bit humid, but I can tell you from my own experience that they're probably beyond humid. They're probably a little bit damp, and he's climbing without a chalk bag, so he has nowhere to chalk up if his hands get wet. And number two, Adam Ondra realizes that right before he pulls on, he's forgotten his shorts. He's lost them somewhere along the way. Adam doesn't like to climb in pants, so either give his attempt either in underwear or walk back 20 minutes to the car, find new clothes, and 20 minutes back up to the boulder. I think having those added stressors would throw things off for just about any other climber out there, but Adam Ondra is able to turn off the switch, enter that athlete mentality, and get the flash send. And here we have Adam Ondra on El Elegido, which adds an incredibly difficult entrance section onto the 8A stand start, which you just saw me do. As you can see, the boulder is about 180-degree overhang. Adam's working through an incredibly difficult section on extremely tiny micro crimps. He's about to swing his body out left and get on a toe hook. In his video, he actually drops one hand down and rests on those tiny crimps, which is amazing. We can see his prowess as he does the first dynamic move like it's nothing, and then makes another second dynamic move that was difficult for me, again, looked like it was nothing. Now he's on the easier section, what should be easier for him, but in one moment we're about to see there's actually a rainbow in the background because it had been raining just before his ascent. Adam works through that final section and celebrates as he flashed the boulder successfully. Once again, sending a huge congratulations to Adam on this flash send of El Elegido. You really deserve that one. I hope this video paints a good picture about the differences between a pro climber like Adam Ondra and someone like me who climbs for fun in their free time. We'll see you guys in the next video.